I know that there are certain experts in the DOH that have been pushing for a whole of nation approach. Perhaps this has sprung from the "We heal as one" slogan. But you see, we cannot heal as one because we have different circumstances, different protocols, in fact, and different leaderships. We are not all uniformly and similarly situated. There are others that have more cases on a 100,000 scale or distribution, and others with lower cases. Even though, like for example, the province of Cebu, we have one of the highest populations in the entire country. And if we speak of Cebu Island, we are the single biggest block in terms of population and in terms of voters. Cebu Island, comprising the province of Cebu, Mandaue, Cebu City, and Lapu-Lapu City, comprise the single biggest voting block of over 5 million votes. And yet, with such a high population, we rank only as an island number 29 in the number of active cases, and as a province, we rank number 30. I hope that this is made very clear, because what I am saying now is born out of clear, critical analysis of data which we got from the Department of Health mismo. Okay. Questions?
May hapon ko regarding sa manifest ng ipirmahan sa mga kongresista sa Cebu supporting your policy sa ROF, OFW.
Yes, first of all, I would like to thank Congressman Edgardo Gullias of the 1st District, Congressman Wilfredo Caminero of the 2nd District, Congressman Pablo Jan Garcia, or Deputy Speaker Pablo Jan Garcia of the 3rd District, Congresswoman Janice Salimbangon of the 4th District, Congressman Duke Frasco of the 5th District, Congressman Lollipop Oano Dizon of the 6th District, Congressman Peter John Calderon of the 7th District, and Congressman Sunny Lagon of the Ako Bisaya party list for having come up with a manifesto supporting the protocols laid down by Executive Order number 17 and the Provincial Board Ordinance, recognizing the fact that those that would be affected by the 14-day, 7th-day, 14-day quarantine, 7th-day swabbing, 10-day isolation rule of the IETF would be a heavy emotional and financial burden on the constituents of their districts of returning Filipinos as well as overseas Filipino workers. And so, being the elected representatives of their constituents, they have expressed in this manifesto the compassion for their own constituents and have abided by their sacred duty to speak out and stand for the welfare of their own constituents. So daghan gyud kaayong salamat sa atong mga kongresista who have taken it upon themselves to come up with this manifesto.
Well, the Congressman's manifesto went even further.
Congressman who?
The Congressman's manifesto went further to saying the LGU will be handling the COVID-19 response.
Well, they are the congressmen they craft the law. Isn't that? Starts as a bill that they file in Congress. And so they are the legislators. And so more than ever, they recognize what the law is. They recognize that Republic Act 7160 has a specific section, Section 105, which states that in times of national health emergencies, that Secretary of Health, upon direction of the President and upon consultation with the local government unit, may take over health protocols of that LGU. But it may not extend beyond 6 months. It's been over 6 months. In fact, it's more than a year now. He may continue to define health protocols only with the concurrence of the local government unit. And these congressmen understand that it is really the LGUs that know the situation on the ground, not some hailed experts that only read figures, read articles in the internet, but do not have actual ground experience. So it's really ironical that they should be dictating policies that have so much impact on people's lives when these people were never chosen, were never elected by the people. And so they are not accountable to the people. We are. In fact, we also always have to account for what we have done for the people that elected us. Every 3 years, an election comes up. You have to make this report and say, these are my promises, this is what we have done. So the congressmen who are elected representatives themselves recognize that.
Go sa pagbalik na sa flight sa Cebu International Airport, magpabilin ang ato ang policy with regards sa ROF o mga OFW.
This morning, I had a meeting with the same call group. Representatives, well, our DOH, the DOT, the OWA, the BOQ, the MCIAA, and the GMCAC, the Hotel and Restaurant Association, and we discussed the resumption of flights. Right now, it's still pegged at 300. We got also an inventory of the number of rooms, which shall now be, upon proper inspection both between the DOT and the DOH, within the week might expand to over 5,000 rooms. What does that mean? That even if non-Cebuanos were to be subjected to a 10-day quarantine period here, we have capacity of 5,000. We will have capacity of rooms available for 5,000 for as long as the Cebuanos upon presentation of a negative RT-PCR will be allowed to go home to their own LGUs. Because you see, it's about 20%. 20% of the arriving ROFs and OFWs are Cebuanos. They were all in agreement that the provincial board ordinance, not even the executive order, but the provincial board ordinance is the recognized local law of the land, unless it is otherwise declared ultra vires by a proper court. So they all agreed that they would have to follow the provincial board ordinance because they do not want to break the law or violate the law. That is for Cebuanos. For non-Cebuanos, we await. If they insist that they be kept here, well, we shall be increasing the hotel rooms so that the bed capacity increases to allow them to be kept here if the LGU will not accept them. We just hope that the request of our hotels be granted because there's a huge disparity between what is being paid by OWA to our hotels here. It's 1,400. On the other hand, in Manila, for a category or 3-star hotel, it's 3,000. Those with higher star, 4-star and 5-star, they get, it's 2,005, and then it goes up to 2,008 to 3,000. So there's a huge disparity. According to OWA, it was because of COA limitations that in Region 7, you could, or in the city of Cebu, what is allowed only is 1,004. So I had to confirm with our regional director for COA here whether or not there is in fact such a limitation in the payment of the hotels. You know that 1,004 is not only for the accommodation, that includes 3 meals a day. So it's practically a losing proposition for our hotels. And I wouldn't blame them if there aren't so many who are excited about joining as a multi-use facility. I broached the idea, and this is very important. I said, okay, with the arrivals, we take off 20% of that, because this was also brought out. They said, for as long as we do not include into the equation the Cebuanos that arrive, because they must only stay for 2 days at most, then they can be sent home. That increases our bed capacity or our room capacity. I pointed out, perhaps because I had not really carefully read the announcement, I pointed out that, well, according to the DOH recommendation, they will shorten the quarantine stay in the hotel to 7 days for vaccinated OFWs and ROFs. But everyone reacted and said, but Gov, that is only for those that were vaccinated in the Philippines. That was what was pointed out. I hope you can verify that, but everyone was very sure about it, because I guess that is the guideline that they were given. That is only now for ROFs and OFWs that were vaccinated in the Philippines. Which means to say that the OFW has to come home, subject himself to a 14-day quarantine in order to be vaccinated. First dose, come back again for the second dose, which cannot be given immediately.
Yes.
And which also says that, so the vaccine that you get in the United States will not be effective here in the Philippines.
Not be honored.
And then I went further on to say, okay, let's still presume that they will limit the 7-day quarantine period. They will limit it to 7 days quarantine for the vaccinated, Philippine vaccinated ROFs and OFWs. I hope I'm wrong. This was what was...
Okay, that's true though.
Is that true? It's in the news. So, I said, at any rate, let us still presume that the arriving OFWs are Philippine vaccinated OFWs. So they will now be allowed only 7 days. They will now allow the 7-day quarantine. But their testing will only happen on the 7th day. So are they saying now that after they were tested, regardless of whether or not the results have come out of testing that they were negative or positive, they may go home? How is that better than one who is tested upon arrival and upon 24 to 48 hours, he has to wait for the result, then armed with a negative result, he can go home, as compared to one who, according to their protocols, can only be tested on the 7th day, and on that 7th day, regardless of the result, he may go home. Things are getting weirder and weirder. In fact, I cannot believe that these kinds of policies were in fact the product of careful analysis, actual on-ground experience, and logic and common sense.
There's a limit of the number of arrivals.
Right now, it's still 300 because they are also looking at the insistence of IATF that non-Cebuanos should be billeted for 10 days. And with a capacity right now of about 3,000, that should be good for 10 days. However, as the room capacity is going to be increased, perhaps within the week or early next week, to over 5,000, that now increases our capacity to accept ROFs and OFWs that will have to stay for a longer period should they insist. I realize, though we had said that indeed the non-Cebuanos, after having tested negative, should go home to their own provinces. Anyway, they are carrying a negative test result and subject themselves to the protocols of that province. There were provinces that did not accept. That was why that lady from Nueva Ecija died in Lapu-Lapu. Apparently, she was not accepted in the province until she would have completed the 10-day stay. Well, if that is insisted upon, it's more business for our hotels. Although I hope that they will increase that, because why this disparity? The regional director of COA here has already stated she is not aware of such a cap, but she is double-checking now whether there is a cap, that there is a higher cap for NCR and over 1,000 pesos lower here. I mean 1,400 compared to 2,500 or 2,800, even 3,000 pesos. Why this huge disparity when our hotels have the same facilities and our hotels are located in the same highly urbanized areas such as Metro, like NCR?
Yung magulang klaro, online ang ato ang home isolation sa mga Cebuano, mga tested negative. 7 days yapon ko, and then after that, i-swab sila.
Yes, they will again. In fact, I read somewhere that I just said that orally. No, I did not say that orally. There's really a memorandum to that effect. That's a follow-up to Executive Order 17. They are tested upon arrival. If negative, they go home to their LGU. They are on home quarantine. On the 7th day after arrival, they are reswabbed for free. So that is really going beyond. We are not defying, we are innovating, to use the words of Yusek Densing, but I heard he did not stand up to that anymore. But he said that. That came from him. We are innovating in order to custom fit the guideline, which is a guideline to our peculiar situation here. Other provinces may not mind as much. Why? They're not international airports. Pila man ka international airports actually have flights that are coming in. Just NAIA, MCAA, Davao is not, no? Clark. So, our situation here, with our steadily dropping number of cases, would seem to prove that what we are doing is effective. Not only on the science of it, a very favorite word right now, not only on the science of it, but also on the mathematics of it. Because our policies are based also on science and on mathematics, because we have figures that we analyze. But more than that, beyond the science and the mathematics of it, let us remember, these figures are not just numbers. These are people. These are Filipinos who are sacrificing abroad to bring in the dollars to help their families and to help our own economy. Many have called them unsung heroes. So let us look at the humanitarian side of it. They are coming home not to gallivant around and not to have some grand vacation. For 95% of them, they are coming home because of emergencies. Whether it be a family member gravely ill, or a family member that has passed away, or some accident that has befallen some member of the family, or some other emergency. And they have very short breaks that they ask from their companies where they work. If we subject them to a 10-day quarantine inside the hotel, that's taking away so much time away from family. And if they're rushing home, hoping that they may catch one gravely ill family member still alive, in those 10 days, that family member may already have passed away, and he would not, our ROF or OFW, would not have been able to say goodbye. Put yourself in their place, because you are Filipino, I am a Filipino, they are Filipinos as well. Let us treat them as humanely as we would treat our own family.
Now let me clarify. Ang non-Cebuano residents, after 3 days, they have the option to stay here in Cebu. Hindi na kailangan mo muli yun sila sa ilang province.
The situation is actually, while we were saying it should be a shared responsibility, so that after 2 days, if they in fact have a negative test result, and that's good for the next 72 hours, per DOH protocol. I'm just, quoting the DOH. In fact, home quarantine is also allowed. That's DOH protocol. Unless they have already, revoked that protocol, it's still there. Maybe they forgot. So, if they get that negative test result, per DOH statement, that's good for the next 72 hours. We are saying that they should go home. They should go back. If they are coming here to Cebu and they belong to Metro Manila, they go back to Metro Manila. Over there, they should stay. If the protocol in, say, Quezon City is, you stay in this specified quarantine hotel, then they should do that. And they be swabbed on the 7th day. Again, but we will already be giving them that negative RT-PCR test result to assure them that this person, when tested within 72 hours, was negative. Of course, DOH said, but there are so many false negatives. Is that the same as there are so many false positives? So when is it convenient to say false negative, and when is it convenient to say false positive? If we do not believe the results of the RT-PCR on the first day, saying that there are many cases of false negatives, then why do we need to test them on the 7th day? That's the same RT-PCR test that they will have to take. So, we would encourage they go home, they stay there in their own provinces, following the protocols of that province or city, be tested again on the 7th day, stay until the 10th day, and then complete the rest of the 14-day quarantine in their own homes. But there are provinces that would not accept. And so they may stay here for the next 10 days. That's what happened to that lady who died from Nueva Ecija. She tested twice negative, by the way. Negative upon arrival. On the 7th day, she was swabbed again. And she was still negative.
Okay, more questions? No more? You have another issue? Wala na?
With the issuance of the joint manifesto from the 8 congressmen, are we hoping, Govna,
the IATF would now listen to us?
I know the DOH did not listen to us because they issued that statement. But they will still insist. On the 7th-day swab and confinement in the hotel for 10 days. But they would allow it to be reduced to 7 days for those OFWs and ROFs that have been vaccinated in the Philippines. Very kamo na light sulti ana. It's very so I got so lost in the brilliance of the policy.
Kung ang joint manifesto, would it be
Change their
a way
minds.
for them to listen to us here?
I am hoping that, our congressmen represent their specific districts, no? That's very, very, it's really bringing it down to the people. And they have spoken out. I hope that this joint manifesto by our 8 congressmen would have a bearing in the decision of the IATF, because if they would meet it, they would just treat it like, cast it aside. Then why else do we have to have elected officials for? Di na lang ta magpapili sa mga tao. Ipang-appoint na lang ni sila. Sila na lang magbuot sa panginabuhi sa katawhan, sa kinabuhi sa katawhan. We have elected officials because our elected officials have to answer to the people. We are accountable to the people. And so, we are duty-bound to protect the welfare of the people that put us into office.
Okay.
And these congressmen are the crafters of laws. They legislate. It is from them that a law emanates or starts. And they know what the law is.
Lee, wala kayo pala question? Wala na? Yes, okay. Okay, go. Thank you very much. In closing?
In closing, I would like to thank you for having stayed with us and listened to what we have presented. I hope that by the data we have presented, you can get a clearer picture of how we must proceed, of how we will be able to rise up to the challenge of managing COVID-19. And furthermore, I hope that above all else, let us not forget our humanity. Let us not forget that we are human beings, not just numbers or figures, but people with families that can feel for us, that can miss us, that can suffer along with us. For and behalf of all Cebuanos, allow me first to express our deep appreciation and gratitude to our congressmen from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th districts, as well as the Ako Bisaya party list, for having come up with a manifesto upholding our humanity and our understanding for our fellow men. So daghan kay salamat o maayong hapon kanatong tanan.